Ambassador Elena Vasquez stood in the medical bay of the Galactic Council station, wrapped in a thermal blanket, while 3 Velcran physicians scanned her with increasingly frantic instruments. Around her, a crowd of concerned aliens murmured in various languages, their translators creating a symphony of worried clicks, whistles, and harmonics. "I'm telling you, I'm fine," Elena insisted for the 5th time. "Fine?" Chief Medical Officer Zwaxthal's bioluminescence flashed emergency red. "Your epidermal temperature was 42 degrees Celsius. You were immersed in liquid heated to 43 degrees. For 20 minutes. It was a bath. It was a thermal execution chamber." The incident had begun innocently enough. Elena had been on the station for 2 weeks, engaged in delicate trade negotiations between Earth and the Galactic Consortium. The work was stressful, the artificial gravity made her joints ache, and she desperately missed the simple comforts of home. So she'd requested a bathtub installation in her quarters. The station engineers, eager to accommodate humanity's newest diplomat, had complied. They'd studied Earth databases, constructed a ceramic basin with proper drainage, and installed a water heating system. Everything seemed perfect. Until Security Chief Kren's wellness monitor registered a biosign emergency from Elena's quarters. The system detected dangerously elevated temperatures, potential scalding injuries, and what appeared to be a human in mortal distress. Kren had mobilized a full emergency response team. They'd burst through Elena's door with medical equipment and fire suppressant foam, ready to save her from whatever catastrophe had befallen the fragile Deathworlder. Instead, they found Elena neck-deep in steaming water, eyes closed, a content smile on her face, surrounded by floating flower petals and something called bath salts. "I had lavender essential oils going too," Elena added helpfully. "Really sets the mood." Kren, a veteran security officer who'd served through 2 wars and a solar flare crisis, had fainted. Now, 3 hours later, the entire command staff had assembled to understand what they'd witnessed. Station Commander Velthane, a distinguished Threnxian whose crystalline carapace chimed softly with each movement, accessed the medical data. "Ambassador Vasquez, our records indicate that 43-degree water would cause 3rd-degree burns to 87% of known species within 30 seconds. Velcran tissue begins cellular breakdown at 35 degrees. Yet you claim this was pleasurable?" "Very," Elena confirmed. "It's how humans relax. Hot baths, hot showers, saunas, hot springs, we've been doing it for thousands of years." Zwaxthal's 3 eyes blinked in sequence. "You intentionally subject yourself to temperatures that would hospitalize most galactic citizens? When you put it that way, it sounds weird." "Because it is weird." Zwaxthal's bioluminescence strobed. "What kind of evolutionary nightmare produces a species that finds comfort in conditions that simulate atmospheric re-entry?" Elena pulled the thermal blanket tighter, suddenly understanding the depth of the cultural gap. "I think we need to have a longer conversation about human thermoregulation." Commander Velthane's carapace chimed agreement. "Indeed. And perhaps, a demonstration?" The conference room had been hastily converted into a lecture hall. 63 beings from 22 species filled the seats, all staring at the portable bathtub that engineering had wheeled to the center of the stage. Beside it stood Elena, now dressed professionally, with a holographic display showing human anatomical diagrams. "Thank you all for coming," Elena began. "I understand yesterday's incident caused concern. Today, I'd like to explain why humans enjoy hot baths, and more importantly, why we're capable of surviving them." She activated the first diagram, a cross-section of human skin. Humans evolved on Earth, a Class 9 death world characterized by extreme temperature variations. Our planet ranges from -89 degrees Celsius to +57 degrees Celsius in natural environments. A collective gasp rippled through the audience. To survive this, Elena continued, we developed sophisticated thermoregulation. Our skin has approximately 2 to 4 million sweat glands. When we overheat, we secrete water through our skin, which evaporates and cools us. It's an incredibly efficient system. Zhuangthal raised one of his 4 hands. But evaporative cooling requires your body to maintain internal temperatures higher than your environment. What's your internal temperature? Approximately 37 degrees Celsius. We maintain this constantly. The Velcrin physician's bioluminescence flickered disbelief. Our species maintains 28 degrees. You're saying your baseline internal temperature would cause us heat stroke? Essentially, yes. A Pixan engineer in the front row squeaked. How do you not spontaneously combust? Elena smiled. Because we're adapted. Our proteins, enzymes, cellular structures, everything evolved to function optimally at these temperatures. What feels normal to us would be catastrophic to you. And vice versa, I'd freeze in water comfortable for most species here. She gestured to the tub. Now, about hot baths. The water I used yesterday was 43 degrees, only 6 degrees above my body temperature. Warm, but not dangerously so. The heat causes our blood vessels to dilate, improving circulation. It relaxes muscles, reduces pain, and triggers a parasympathetic nervous system response. Parasympathetic? Asked a Drenathy biologist. Our rest and digest mode. Heart rate slows, blood pressure drops, stress hormones decrease. It's deeply calming. Commander Velthane chimed thoughtfully. So this torture temperature actually induces a meditative state for humans? Exactly. We also have cultural practices that go even further. Elena pulled up new images. Saunas, dry heat rooms at 70 to 100 degrees Celsius. Hot springs, natural heated water from geothermal activity. Steam rooms, near 100% humidity at 40 to 50 degrees. You're describing the surface of Venus, someone shouted. Not quite that extreme, Elena laughed. But yes, we voluntarily enter these environments for health and relaxation. In Finland, saunas are an integral part of the culture. In Japan, hot springs, called onsen, are everywhere. In Russia, people alternate between saunas and ice-cold water. Zhuangthal stood abruptly. The thermal shock would stop most hearts. Human hearts are remarkably resilient. We can handle rapid temperature changes that would be fatal to most species. She paused, letting that sink in. The point is, what seems like torture to you is therapeutic to us. Our evolutionary history made us thermal generalists, capable of surviving and even thriving in temperature ranges that span over 100 degrees. A young Velcrin student raised a tentative hand. Could we observe a demonstration? Safely? Elena nodded. I was hoping someone would ask. The conference room had been reconfigured with safety protocols that would have been appropriate for handling radioactive materials. A transparent thermal shield separated the audience from the demonstration zone. Medical teams stood ready with cooling chambers. Engineers monitored temperature sensors placed throughout the room. Elena stood beside the bathtub, now filled with water. Holographic displays showed real-time readings: water temperature 43 degrees Celsius, air temperature 22 degrees Celsius, Elena's skin temperature 33 degrees Celsius. For safety, I'll narrate everything I'm experiencing, Elena explained. First, I'll test the water temperature. She dipped her hand in. Feels warm. Comfortable. Not too hot. The monitors showed her skin temperature rise slightly where it contacted the water, 38 degrees Celsius. Now I'll enter slowly. She sat on the tub's edge, submerging her feet and calves. The initial contact feels hot, but in a pleasant way. My body is adjusting. Blood vessels in my legs are dilating, increasing blood flow to the area. Zhuangthal watched his medical scanner obsessively. Her heart rate has increased from 68 to 75 beats per minute. Blood pressure rising slightly. This appears to be a mild stress response. It is, Elena confirmed. But watch what happens. She gradually lowered herself into the water, submerging up to her shoulders. Now I'm fully in. Temperature feels perfect. My muscles are already starting to relax. The audience watched in horrified fascination as Elena settled into water that would have caused most of them extreme pain or death. Her vital signs displayed prominently. Core temperature, 37.2 degrees Celsius, slight increase. Heart rate, 72 bpm, decreasing. Skin temperature, submerged areas 41 degrees Celsius. Stress hormone indicators, declining. The water's heat is penetrating my muscles, Elena narrated, closing her eyes. Tension is melting away. My breathing is deepening naturally. This is activating my parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest mode I mentioned. Kren, the security chief who'd fainted yesterday, watched from behind the safety barrier. She looks peaceful. Not distressed at all. Because I'm not, Elena said, overhearing. This is genuinely relaxing. On Earth, people do this after long days at work, after exercise, when they're sick, or just for pleasure. We have entire industries built around bath products, salts, oils, bubbles, bath bombs. Bath bombs, someone squeaked. They're not actual explosives. They fizz and release pleasant scents. A KR-20H geologist raised a silicon-based appendage. Human Elena, how long can you safely remain in water this temperature? Comfortably? 20 to 30 minutes. Longer if I add cool water periodically. Some people stay in hot tubs for over an hour, though that's not recommended. She demonstrated by remaining in the bath for 10 minutes, occasionally adding slightly cooler water to maintain optimal temperature. Her vital signs remained stable. The audience's fear gradually transformed into scientific curiosity. Notice how my skin has flushed. Elena held up her reddened arm. This is vasodilation, blood vessels expanding to dissipate excess heat. It's a normal response. When I exit the bath, my body will gradually return to baseline temperature through natural cooling mechanisms. After 15 minutes, Elena stood and stepped out. Steam rose from her skin. She wrapped herself in a towel, to retain some warmth and absorb water, and sat in a chair. The monitors showed her body temperature gradually declining, heart rate normalizing, stress indicators at remarkably low levels. And that, Elena concluded, is why humans take hot baths. Questions? Hands, tentacles, and appendages shot up across the room. Commander Velthane's crystalline carapace chimed as she stood. Ambassador Vasquez, your demonstration was enlightening. But I have concerns. If humans find comfort in temperatures lethal to most species, how do we ensure safe cohabitation on shared stations and vessels? Elena toweled her hair. That's actually easier than you'd think. Humans are adaptable. We're comfortable in a much wider temperature range than most species. Standard station temperature, 22 degrees Celsius, is perfectly fine for us. Cool, but we adjust with clothing. But your quarters, Zwexthal interjected. You've been requesting temperature adjustments. Raising it to 25 degrees Celsius. That's just preference, not necessity. Humans evolved in various climates. My ancestors came from regions near Earth's equator, warmer areas. I naturally prefer slightly higher temperatures. But my colleague, Ambassador Petrov, comes from Siberia, a frigid region. He actually requested his quarters be cooled to 18 degrees Celsius. A Pixan engineer stood on her chair to be seen. So humans have individual temperature preferences within your already extreme species range? Exactly. We're diverse. But we can all function comfortably in standard station conditions. The bath situation is different, that's a private, voluntary activity. A young Velcran medical student raised two hands. I'm confused about the evolutionary benefit. Why develop tolerance for extreme heat? Wouldn't it be more efficient to simply avoid hot environments? You'd think so, Elena agreed. But Earth didn't give us that luxury. Our ancestors evolved in Africa, where daytime temperatures regularly exceeded 40 degrees Celsius. They had to hunt during the day, unlike most predators who hunted at dawn or dusk. So we evolved superior heat tolerance. She pulled up a new hologram showing human evolutionary history. We became persistence hunters. We'd chase prey for hours in scorching heat. Our sweat cooling system let us continue running long after our prey collapsed from heat exhaustion. It's actually one of our most important evolutionary advantages. You chased animals until they died of heat stroke? Kren looked disturbed. Sometimes, yes. Humans aren't the fastest runners, but we're the best endurance runners on Earth. We can jog for hours. Our prey would sprint away, but we'd just keep coming. Eventually, they'd overheat and collapse. The security chief's bioluminescence turned pale. That's terrifying. From the prey's perspective, absolutely, Elena admitted. But it's also why we developed such efficient thermoregulation. The same systems that let us hunt in African heat also let us enjoy hot baths today. A Drenathy aquatic biologist waved a webbed fin. What about cold tolerance? You mentioned temperature extremes in both directions. Good question. Humans also colonized Arctic regions, areas where temperatures dropped to -40 degrees Celsius or lower. We developed behavioral adaptations, clothing, fire, shelter, and some genetic adaptations. Populations in cold regions tend to have stockier builds with more body fat for insulation. Zwexthal pulled up his medical data. But your core temperature doesn't vary? You maintain 37 degrees Celsius whether in Arctic cold or desert heat? Correct. That's homeostasis. Our bodies work hard to maintain that stable internal temperature despite external conditions. That's why extreme heat or cold is still dangerous to us. Our regulatory systems can be overwhelmed. But our range of survivability is much wider than most species. Commander Velthane chimed thoughtfully. This explains much about human exploratory tendencies. You've colonized environments on Earth that other species would consider uninhabitable. Every continent, including Antarctica. From deserts to rainforests to tundra. We're annoyingly adaptable. A question came from the back: are there other human comfort activities we should know about? To prevent future medical emergencies? Elena grinned. Well, since you asked. Elena pulled up a new series of images, and the assembled aliens leaned forward with mixture of curiosity and trepidation. Let's talk about other human thermal activities, Elena began. First, ice baths. The hologram showed a human sitting in a tub filled with ice water. That's the opposite extreme. Zwexthal's bioluminescence flashed alarmed orange. That water must be near 0 degrees Celsius. Usually between 0 and 10 degrees Celsius, yes. Athletes use ice baths after intense exercise to reduce inflammation and muscle soreness. You sit in it for 10 to 15 minutes. But the hypothermia takes longer to set in than you'd think. Our bodies fight to maintain core temperature. Surface tissues cool dramatically, but core temp drops slowly. It's uncomfortable but manageable. She switched images. Then there's cryotherapy, standing in a chamber at -100 to -140 degrees Celsius for 2 to 3 minutes. The room erupted in alarmed sounds. I know. But it's a controlled exposure. Your extremities are protected, and you're only in briefly. It reduces inflammation, supposedly boosts metabolism, and some people claim it improves mood. Kren stood up. Ambassador, are you telling me humans voluntarily enter temperatures that would flash freeze most biological tissue? For health benefits, yes. Though I should mention it's controversial. some doctors question the benefits. A Threnxian geologist chimed in. What about the other direction? You mentioned saunas earlier. Right. Elena pulled up new images. Traditional Finnish saunas can reach 70 to 100 degrees Celsius. You sit on wooden benches, wood doesn't conduct heat as much as metal, and sweat profusely. Sessions last 15 to 30 minutes, sometimes with breaks to cool down. Or jump in ice water, she added, showing an image of someone leaping from a sauna into a frozen lake. It's called contrast therapy. The extreme temperature shift is invigorating. It's madness, muttered someone in the audience. There's also infrared saunas, lower air temperature but radiant heat that penetrates deeper into tissue. And steam rooms, where high humidity at 40 to 50 degrees Celsius makes it feel hotter than it is. She switched to a new image. Then there are hot springs, naturally heated water from geothermal sources. In Japan, they call them onsen. Temperatures range from 35 to 45 degrees Celsius. People soak for relaxation and therapeutic benefits. Some hot springs are even hotter. How hot? Asked a nervous Pixan. There's a hot spring in Japan, Jigokudani, that monkeys use. Water temperature around 40 degrees Celsius. Humans can use similar ones. I've heard of hot springs reaching 50 degrees Celsius, though those are dangerous even for us. A medical student raised her hand. Are there any temperature-related activities that humans consider dangerous? Of course. We can get hypothermia, frostbite, heat stroke, and burns just like anyone, our thresholds are just higher. Water above 60 degrees Celsius causes burns quickly. Below -20 degrees Celsius for extended periods risks frostbite. We have limits. They're just terrifyingly higher than ours, Zwexthal added. True, Elena conceded. But here's the important part. Humans actively seek these experiences. We have spa industries worth billions. Public baths, hot tubs, heated pools, saunas, steam rooms, they're everywhere. It's deeply embedded in our culture across the planet. She showed images from various Earth cultures, Roman bathhouses, Turkish hammams, Japanese onsen, Korean jjimjilbangs, Russian banyas, Scandinavian saunas, hot springs from Iceland to New Zealand. Every human culture independently discovered that deliberate thermal exposure, especially heat, has psychological and physiological benefits. It reduces stress, eases pain, improves sleep, and fosters social bonding. Commander Velthane chimed softly. Social bonding? Many bathing traditions are communal. People gather at bathhouses, hot springs, saunas. They relax together, talk, share experiences. It's a cornerstone of social life in many cultures. The commander's crystalline structure resonated thoughtfully. So what we interpreted as torture is actually a bonding ritual? Among other things, yes. The room fell silent as the implications settled over the assembled aliens. 2 weeks after the demonstration, Elena sat in her quarters reviewing diplomatic reports when her door chimed. She opened it to find an unexpected delegation, Zwexthal, Kren, Commander Velthane, and 3 other station officers. Ambassador, Velthane began, her carapace chiming nervously. We have an unusual request. We've been researching human bathing culture extensively. The psychological benefits you described, stress reduction, social bonding, therapeutic relaxation, these are concepts our species also value, though we achieve them through different means. Okay. Elena gestured them inside. Kren stepped forward. On my homeworld, Velcros, we have sun ant pools, chambers where harmonic frequencies resonate through low-temperature fluids. The vibrations induce meditative states. It's our equivalent of your baths. That sounds beautiful. It is. Kren's bioluminescence glowed warm amber. But it made me realize, every species has their own relaxation ritual, that others might find strange or even dangerous. Threnxians have crystal resonance chambers. Drenethi have pressure tanks. Pixan have sensory deprivation spheres. What we lack, Zwexthal interjected, is understanding and acceptance of these differences. Your bath incident revealed how quickly we jump to conclusions about practices we don't understand. Elena sat back. You want to create some kind of cultural exchange program? More than that, Commander Velthane chimed. We want to create a wellness cultural center on the station. A place where different species can safely demonstrate and explain their relaxation practices. Humans could have a bath house. Velcrin could build a sun ant pool. Each species contributes their traditions. It would foster understanding, Kren added. And allow for cross-species observation in controlled, educational settings. Elena felt excitement building. That's actually brilliant. It addresses one of the fundamental challenges of a multi-species community, assuming our normal is universal normal. Exactly, Zwexthal agreed. I've already drafted safety protocols. Each area would be clearly marked with species-appropriate warnings. For instance, the human bathhouse would display, extreme heat environment. Velcrin exposure limit, 0 seconds. Threnxian exposure limit, 0 seconds. And so on. But curious aliens could observe through thermal barriers, Velthane added. Learn about the practice without risk. Elena warmed to the idea. You know what would make this even better? Exchange programs. Humans could try sun ant pools at safe intensity levels. Maybe Velcrin could experience very mild heated water, say, 30 degrees Celsius, with supervision. Exposure therapy for cultural practices, Kren mused. I actually find this appealing. I've been curious about the appeal of heat since your demonstration. We'd need to modify the experience significantly for safety, Zwexthal warned. But yes, controlled cross-species participation could be valuable. They spent the next hour planning. The Wellness Cultural Center would occupy an unused cargo bay. Each species would design their area according to their traditions while meeting station safety standards. Educational displays would explain the evolutionary and cultural context of each practice. The human section would include a traditional bath house with separate bathing and relaxation areas, a sauna, and informational exhibits about bathing culture from around Earth. Temperature controls would allow humans to customize their experience while sensors ensured safety. I love this, Elena said finally. But I have one condition. Name it, Velthane chimed. The center's motto should be, one species' comfort is another's catastrophe, and that's okay. We need to normalize the idea that difference isn't wrong, it's just different. Kren's bioluminescence glowed approving blue. Perfect. I'll have it inscribed in every language. As the delegation left to begin planning, Elena smiled. What started as a diplomatic incident had become an opportunity for genuine cross-cultural understanding. Sometimes the best breakthroughs came from the most embarrassing moments. 3 months later, the Wellness Cultural Center opened to unprecedented fanfare. Over 200 beings from 30 species attended the ribbon-cutting ceremony, and the waiting list for guided tours stretched for weeks. Elena stood in the human section, officially named the Thermal Sanctuary, watching the steady stream of curious aliens peek through the thermal observation windows. Inside, 3 human volunteers demonstrated various bathing traditions. Ambassador James Okonkwo sat in a traditional Japanese-style hinoki wood bath, the warm cedar-scented water steaming around him. In the adjoining room, Lieutenant Maria Santos relaxed in a Finnish sauna, periodically ladling water onto hot stones to create bursts of steam. And in the third chamber, Engineer David Kim alternated between a hot tub and a cold plunge pool, demonstrating contrast therapy. Outside the observation windows, aliens watched with fascination and horror in equal measure. Incredible, breathed a young Velcrin student, her face pressed against the thermal barrier. The human in the wooden pool has been submerged for 18 minutes. How is he still conscious? Her professor, a distinguished physician, checked his scanner. His core temperature has only risen 0.3 degrees. The thermoregulation is remarkably precise. Elena smiled, remembering her own incident months ago. Now, instead of panic and emergency medical response, there was curiosity and respect. She moved to the Velcrin section, the Sun Ant Pool complex. Here, Kren floated in a shallow basin of 15 degrees Celsius water while harmonic frequencies pulsed through the fluid at carefully calibrated wavelengths. To human ears, it sounded like a deep, resonant humming. To Velcrin, it apparently induced a trance-like state of profound relaxation. "It's beautiful," Elena told Kren afterward. "I could feel the vibrations through the observation floor. Very soothing." "Would you like to try?" Kren asked. "We've developed a human-safe protocol. Warmer water, 25 degrees Celsius, and modified frequencies." "Really? I'd love to." 20 minutes later, Elena floated in the adapted Sun Ant Pool, feeling harmonic waves pulse through her body. It was unlike anything she'd experienced, a full-body massage from sound itself. Her human hearing picked up different frequencies than Velcrin did, creating a unique experience that was nevertheless deeply calming. When she emerged, Zwexthal was waiting with medical scanners and unconcealed scientific curiosity. "How was it?" "Amazing. Different from a hot bath, but equally relaxing. Just proves your point, every species has valid wellness practices." The medical officer's bioluminescence glowed satisfied gold. "The center has exceeded our expectations. We've had 0 incidents, and preliminary surveys show 94% of visitors report increased understanding of other species' cultures." Commander Velthane approached, her carapace chiming with pleasure. "Ambassador Vasquez, the Galactic Council has taken notice. 3 other stations have requested blueprints to build their own cultural centers. Your torture bath has become a model for cross-species understanding." Elena laughed. "I'm going to tell my grandchildren I revolutionized galactic culture by taking a bath." "You did more than that," Velthane chimed seriously. "You showed us that our instinctive reactions, fear, judgment, horror, often stem from ignorance. What seems dangerous or wrong might simply be different. That's a lesson every species in the galaxy needs." As the day progressed, Elena participated in a panel discussion about the center's development. Speakers from 6 species shared their experiences, describing their initial shock at other species' practices and their eventual appreciation for the diversity of comfort. The Pixan engineer who'd attended Elena's original demonstration gave a touching speech. "I thought humans were insane. Suicidal, even. But spending time in our sensory deprivation sphere must seem equally mad to them, complete silence and darkness for hours. Yet it brings me peace. Now I understand, we're all seeking the same things: rest, relaxation, renewal. We've just evolved different paths to reach them." The applause that followed came in many forms: clapping, chiming, harmonic humming, bioluminescent flashing, and empathic resonance from telepathic species. That evening, Elena returned to her quarters and drew herself a bath. As she sank into the 43 degrees Celsius water, once considered an act of insanity by her alien colleagues, she reflected on how far they'd all come. The water was the same temperature. The practice was unchanged. But everything else had transformed. What was once seen as torture was now recognized as tradition. What caused panic now inspired curiosity. What divided species now brought them together. Elena closed her eyes, letting the heat seep into her muscles, and smiled. Sometimes the best diplomacy happened not in conference rooms or formal negotiations, but in the simple act of sharing who you are and being willing to understand others in return. Even if that meant explaining why you enjoy sitting in water hot enough to boil a Velcrin. She stayed in the bath for 30 minutes, perfectly content, perfectly safe. Perfectly human.